My first fast day with the alternate day fasting regimen was March 1st, 2017. And it just happened to coincide with Ash Wednesday, which is a holiday for a lot of Christians when they start the beginning of Lent and the Easter season, and they're fasting anyway. I didn't really choose it for that day. In fact, it just seemed to be a number of factors. You know, it was the start of a month, and it just helped me. It just worked out that was the day that I started. I didn't really have a plan, but it just worked out nicely that it's easy to know what day I'm on and how many fast days I've had, etc. But I wanted to just talk a little bit about, in this video, about the cons of, or like the negative experiences that I encountered in my first week or 10 days. And the reason I'm restricting it to that time period, I've been on it now, this is the 15th day, and this is my 8th day of fasting, so, you know, every other day. I wanted to break it up, though, and talk about the negative consequences first, and just sort of in that time frame of 7 to 10 days, because things start to change, or they did for me anyway, after the first 9 or 10 days. I really noticed some differences that just don't apply anymore. So I just want to restrict it to that early period, the things that I went through, the things that I encountered physically that were disheartening, or that were, you know, that required some discipline and some effort to get through. And just to remember that, the awareness here. The first thing, obviously, everybody knows, when you start to fast or when you skip meals, the first thing you're going to experience is hunger. It's a no-brainer. The only reason I mention that is because I have gone through long periods of my life, in fact, maybe years at a time, and not experienced hunger. Because I am trained, like most Americans, to eat from the start that I get up. You know, at 6 o'clock I would have breakfast. At 9 or 10 I would have a snack. And then lunch. And then noon or 3 o'clock have another snack. And then dinner. And then come home and have after dinner, put my feet up, watch TV, and eat then too. And almost all the way up to bedtime, and sometimes really at bedtime, like before going to bed, like eat something, ice cream, whatever, and go to bed on that. So you can get used to having a full stomach all the time and think that when you're not full, that therefore you're hungry. And it takes a period of time to retrain your body and to learn to remember even what hunger actually is. And that's my experience anyway. It may not be yours, but if you go to Walmart and you look at the patrons, or you're just out and about, or at the beach or something, you're not alone if you're not hungry, if you don't know what it is to experience hunger. There is just, America, it's our style, our manner of life is to eat constantly. And not to eat good foods, not to eat foods that are nourishing or that are low in calories and high in nutrition, but to eat stuff that is really rotten for us. And it's just accepted. And so when you bring up the idea of fasting to people, they're like, "Are you insane? You know, you're going to drop dead. You're not going to have the energy to do the things you need to do." And so that in itself is a barrier. And so hunger is the first wall that you hit, is hunger. Now, the way I dealt with hunger on my fasting days to begin with is I did not restrict my eating to any particular time window. In other words, if I was hungry in the morning at 10 o'clock, I would have, let's say, a cup of yogurt. And the kind of yogurt that I actually like is plain, non-fat Greek yogurt. It's very high in protein. It's about 130 calories for a cup. So I would eat that at 10 o'clock, let's say. And then if I was hungry again at noon or 1 o'clock, I would have something else. A dill pickle, 20 calories in a whole dill pickle. And maybe a couple carrot sticks. You know, something that is got fiber and is low in calories, and that's going to be a lot of your vegetables. is gonna just to take the edge off the hunger that I was feeling. And then when it got closer to like 7 o'clock, I would eat a salad. And in fact, this is my 8th fasting day. I've had a salad every night. Just because salad and a salad with spinach, not lettuce, something that's nutrient dense, but also low in calories, so that you can eat more of it. That's my thinking. When I'm dealing with hunger, I want to eat more of whatever it is. So that's what I did. And so throughout the day, my 600 calories, and actually I think I always ate less than that. I always ate like 500 calories. But that first week to 10 days, I would just kind of spread it out. And whenever I really had intense hunger pangs, and some of them were intense, and they would last, where I just feel dizzy or nauseous or like, oh, I can't go on, I must eat. That might last maybe 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, and then it would start to wane, or I would just eat something and take the edge off. So that's an option. I mean, that's what I did to deal with the hunger. And of course, drink water. I mean, I've noticed that on my fast days, I'm more thirsty anyway than I ever was. And I always was good at hydrating myself, and so I would drink water throughout the day anyway. But I've noticed that I've definitely increased on my water intake, especially on the fast days. And that's part of dealing with the hunger. And black coffee. I really don't like black coffee. But in the mornings of my fast days, I was drinking it from necessity because I didn't want calories. I didn't want sugar and cream, which is what I like. But I didn't want to screw with the metabolism. I didn't want to screw with the plan. And so I drink black coffee. And here's what's funny. What I'm noticing is that even on the days, on my feast days, on my feeding days, if I put cream and sugar in that coffee now, it just tastes so rich. It's like drinking ice cream to me now. And I'm not talking about excessive amounts of sugar. I'm talking about, a teaspoon or a tablespoon in a large cup of coffee. And it's just almost like too rich. So I don't know, maybe my palate is changing there. But black coffee is a great way to stave off hunger. It's it's got an appetite suppressant anyway. It's a natural appetite suppressant. It's got caffeine. It gives you energy, and you could develop a taste for it, even if you're not into black coffee. So that's something that's changing. But that's how I dealt with hunger. Now, the next thing I felt that I dealt with was fatigue. And I don't know whether that's because of the fasting or whether I just have fatigue. I have had chronic fatigue in the last year or so. And, as I've related in my first video, I've been sick. And so I've been dealing with some of that stuff. But just to mark it, I did feel some fatigue, usually in the afternoons of the first week or 10 days. Whenever I was on my fast days, I'd be like kind of tired. And if I was at home, I would just lay down on the couch, close your eyes 20 minutes, and after that waned, sometimes I'd wake up feeling better. Sometimes I'd have coffee, and that would, help me with fatigue, help me to power through. But it was, to me, a minor thing, and it wasn't necessarily uncommon because I've had fatigue for over a year and a half. Now, I said that I would try to eat the bulk of my calories at night on my fast days, and the reason for that is that I know that it's tough to sleep on an empty stomach. But that being said, part of what I experienced is trouble sleeping at night, especially on the fast days. And I would kind of like toss and turn and have like restless legs, and it wasn't extreme. It wasn't like insomnia where I was up all night long or something like that, but it was enough that I noticed it, that I would wake up really early and just get up, either to pee because I'm taking in more water, more liquids, or just get up and stay up for a little while and then go back to bed. So I did notice a little bit in the early, the first week, mainly the first week, where I had a little bit of trouble sleeping. So And another thing it might have been is the fact that I was taking in more caffeine during the day because I was drinking more coffee to try to combat hunger. So that may have been a factor. So if you do something like this, you might want to try to limit your caffeine after like noon, so that you don't have trouble sleeping at night. One other thing that I had was, I hear a lot of people who fast who complain about headaches. I never really had any. I had 1 or 2 nights where at the end of the day I felt like a headache coming on. And then maybe it was just real dull, not like a migraine, not anything excessive, but just a slight dull, little pressure there that maybe increased as I was sleeping. And then when I woke up in the morning on the other side of that fast day, and woke up on my feed day, felt that, that pressure. And there's a couple reasons that may have happened for me. I know I was getting enough fluid, but I think maybe I was drinking less coffee. There was 1 or 2 days in there where I was like, ooh, I'm going to cut back on my coffee, and I'll talk about the reason for that in a minute. But I think I am so addicted to coffee and caffeine, and that's a battle for another day. I don't plan on changing that anytime soon. I love coffee, and I'm going to keep drinking it for now. I love caffeine. But I think maybe it might have been caffeine withdrawal towards the end, because the reason I think that is I got up on my feed day, drank 2 cups of coffee, popped an ibuprofen, and felt fine. So, but I did deal with some minor headaches, and I've heard other people who fast who dealt with some headaches. Now, I say that I cut back on 1 or 2 days on my coffee, and the reason for that was on my first 2 fast days, okay, so first day and third day, I had some intestinal distress. I had diarrhea. I was very near in danger of like sharting, and it was just, I think, my stomach going, what is this guy doing? I mean, what is happening here? This is not the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to have constant intake. But I noticed some diarrhea, some looseness, some excess, just feeling like I needed to go all day, and until about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and then it would pass. So because coffee makes me go, I cut back a little bit on my coffee, and that may have led to my headaches later in the day. But just something that I did experience, my intestines trying to work it out, trying to figure my body going, what is going on? The normal process just isn't working here. We're freaking out. So, but that thankfully passed. Paired with all of these things, my family discovered that I was, in the afternoons, somewhat irritable. I was grumpy. And I was really grumpy until I got to my evening meal, which was the majority of my calories in that first 7 to 10 days. My wife says I did an exemplary job, that she really didn't notice my irritability, but that's because I was making a conscious effort, white knuckling it, to not kill somebody who was between me and my salad at the end of the fast day. So, yeah, I had some irritability that I dealt with. So if you're starting out and you're around people that annoy you, or something like that, you might just want to go home early, or create some distance, close the door, do whatever you got to do so that you're not snapping at people. It is something for me that passed, but it was something that I contended with in the first 7 to 10 days, just feeling hangry, and something else that has not changed, that has not gone away, and I'm now on my 8th day, is that I feel cold. And this is something that, and as anyone who knows me knows that I'm hot-blooded, I'm warm all the time. I'm the jerk that wears shorts in the wintertime. And, I just don't feel the cold. Well, when I'm fasting, on my fast day, right about noontime, I start to feel it in my hands. I feel it in my feet. So I can't go around barefoot. I'm wearing shoes, and this is even if it's 65, 70 degrees outside. It's usually pretty temperate here in North Carolina. But that is something that's a significant change. I'm wearing a sweatshirt usually, and I feel the cold more than normal. So that's something to prepare for. If you decide to fast, that you are probably going to feel the cold more than you normally do. So that's the basic negatives. Those are the things that I contended with, the cons, you could say, of the alternate day fasting. And most of these things have disappeared. The hunger, the fatigue, the irritability. Most of these things have gone away. My troubles, I'm sleeping fine now. I've kind of come out on the other side of all this stuff, and I feel much better. And so in the next video, I'll talk about the positive things that I noticed in that 7 to 10 days, because there were positive things that were going on that kept me going, that kept me motivated, and there was changes that I liked. But now that we've got all the reality out of the way, we've got all the worst of the worst stuff out of the way, I'll talk about those things in the next video.